Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
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 Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo, Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it all go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it all go down. Corrosion to her thighs, erosion, erosion of her pride. Baby's got sugar, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Baby's got it indeed. Man, baby doesn't have headroom. What the hell? You know, you rehearse. I kind of got a little Shoney's / Bob's Big Boy thing with the little dollop there. My hair's always fucked up. I don't really care anymore. I gave up. I haven't been to a barber probably in about 16 years, maybe 17 years, something like that. You can tell I cut my own hair, but guess what? I don't even tip myself either. I just say, you know what? You did a shitty job. Why would I even pay you? Much less tip you. Good morning, everybody. It is Friday here, Friday, August 15th, in the year of our Lord 2025, as we are about to get into some news here pretty soon, but of course, I want to say hola to everybody. You guys hear me out there? Okay. Am I blasting too much? Seems like I'm a little bit hot. A little bit hot tonight. Reach between my legs, ease the seat back. She's got it. Sorry. A little Panama for you. Miss Tree, good morning, dear. How are you? Good to see you. Checking in on our YouTubies first. Do your do. Is that what you're saying? Okay. I preach. You like it? Thank you. Usually during the summertime, I do the buzz cut, and then I do like a little goatee to make me look like an evil Bond villain or something like that. Kamashwari Kate, what's up, Kate? Good to see you. I hope you're doing well, dear, up there in the Great White North. We got Kieran here. What's up, Kieran? Good to see you, my friend. We got CBC voter. Always a pleasure to see you. Desert Man to Sneaking Sally through the alley just snuck in. Good to see you, buddy. Got to see you, buddy. Hey, buddy. Miguel, good to see you. The Miguel 5000 quantum computer that's going to ruin the world. Have you? Yeah, you should. If you watch. Well, I guess you don't have to, but if you want to do the easy thing, watch Y-Files about the quantum computers and when quantum computers, team up with, hold on a second, OCD, what the shit? And then it all went to hell. With the quantum computers hook up with the advanced general intelligence, that's going to be hell to pay. I'm just saying, I say hi to you, CBC. Good to see CBC voter. Hope you're doing well. Willie Bragg in the house. Good to see you. I saw your show was it last night, Willie? Or was it the night before? It was the night before. I saw some show last night. You know, I hallucinate a lot when I'm off my pills. Michael, good to see you. Let's see if we can get this up here. So Michael posted this in the thing. It says on Saturday, September 20th, we're drawing the line for people, for peace, for the planet, and demand that Prime Minister Carney, not Art Carney, the actual Prime Minister up there, and the Canadian government, if you know that joke, you're probably old, and the Canadian government pick a side: injustice, violence, and climate destruction, or a just and safe future for all of us. Draw the Line is hosted by 350.org and partners. So here it is right here. Thisworldisours.org you can go to. Or Draw the Line. Is that .world? /Canada. I can't see so good. I fell down some stairs and my shoes fell off. This is tearing the ass out of me. We need to have, I know you've heard of the Jerky Boys, but I was telling my buddy Ed about these phone calls. This guy, it was this real place, was getting prank calls. It was called Allied Motors. And it's somewhere down south, because the guy answered the phone and go, Allied Motors. And then this guy would say, hey, are you my daddy? I know, ain't you goddamn daddy? There's like, we'll have to do that for the secret show. We'll play some of that for the secret show at some point, because that shit is hysterical. Hey, you get them Christmas presents I sent you? Shut up. No, I got them. I burned them. Good times. Look at Miguel over there with the dancing cat on Rumble. And of course our lurkers. I don't know if anybody's on anybody on Facebook? No? Yes, maybe. I don't know. Can you repeat the question? Probably not. But sometimes they watch later. It's fine. Folks, I love money. I use $1,000 bills as toilet paper. Yes, I know they're not in circulation anymore. And that's why. Because I use $1,000 bills as toilet paper. And so, but in order to get that money, I got to pimp that shit, son. I got to pimp that Desperation Blend extra dark roast ground coffee. Born under a bad sign, a sign that reads caution, toxic waste. This horrifying bean will sit on your chest like the night hag during sleep paralysis. Its atomic structure is yet to be determined, but scientists say it could be coffee or pencil graphite or even a fossilized bat turd. They're really not sure at this point. Do you hate money so much you'll spend it on anything? And I mean anything. Are you looking for a coffee so violently disgusting it's wanted in 3 states for second-degree murder? Well, then grab a bag of Desperation. This stuff right here. Ow, it hurts. Desperation Blend extra dark roast ground coffee, found online and wherever lawn darts are sold. Also, as always, use promo code GRIFTER to pay an additional 20% off. That's the coffee bit for the morning. You only get 2 a week. So the only, and you say, well, how can I buy this delicious blend? Well, like, so you have to go online. Well, what's the web address? I don't know. That shit does what it wants, man. It's like you probably have to go on the dark web, if we're honest, to get the Desperation Blend coffee. So hopefully that's not the case. If you're buying crack cocaine or something, and having it shipped to your house, then, get yourself some coffee too. Lawn darts. So you're like, what's lawn darts? Back in the day, we had these things. It was like darts. They were about yay big, about a foot long, had this long metal point. I mean, it wasn't like sharp. It was a little bit dull, but still, and you threw them, and apparently people were getting murdered. Or I'm sorry, they were getting unalived by lawn darts. So they had the 86 dim toys. You could change your name to Desperate Mantis. Desperation is a stinky cologne. Or maybe not. All right. Hopefully you didn't hear that. All right. We got a lot. Almost 30 stories today. Well, kind of 29 and a half. Because, because math. Let me get my shit sit in here. Okay, that's what I'm not. All right, so. Okay, so here we go. Hey, peace dove. What's good? What's good? Oh, shoot. You've been in here. Sorry, buddy. Sorry I missed you. But I didn't miss you this time. I got you. So Trumpy's heading up to Alaska. So going up there to go see the big pyramid underground up there. You guys ever heard about that? The Alaska Triangle up there? It's like this area. It's like the Bermuda Triangle, and all kinds of crazy shit happens up there. They say there's a pyramid that the government found underground up there, and it's all kinds of weird shit going on. So, yeah. But I don't think that was why Trump's going up there. He's going up there on business for the Putin-Trump Alaska Summit, brought to you by Desperation Brand Coffee. Desperation, when you're desperate to get a deal done and you want to poison your opponent. So Putin, what do we know? What's going on? I think everybody else is there. I don't know if Putin's there yet. I know Trumpy's on his way, but so Putin will meet with Trump on Friday, which is today, in Alaska. How long will there be? I don't know. Alaska. The summit is expected to focus on seeking a resolution to the Ukraine conflict, which is funny because the Ukrainian president's not there. Oh, he should have told me. He wanted to come because he heard about all the white powder, but then when he found out it was snow, he was like, "Yeah, that's okay." So here's what we need to know about this bullshit. So the meeting will take place in the state of Alaska, the edge of which lies just a few dozen miles across the Bering Strait from the Russian border. Remember that? What's her face with the glasses? I can see Russia from my porch. That chick. The meeting will begin today, this morning, once everybody's set up. I believe, I don't know, Alaska, what are they, like 3 hours behind Central Time? I'm not quite sure. At Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Kremlin Foreign Policy aide Yuri Yushikov told journalists on Thursday. And apparently the Russian journalists are getting a raw deal up there. They're making them stay in like some sort of like gym that they fashioned into like almost like a shelter kind of thing. And then that filled up. And so now they had the Russian journalists have to get Airbnbs. Point of note, you keep hearing this whoosh in the background. Don't worry, there's no TARDIS back here. There's jets flying over Chicago, practicing for the air show, because there's nothing scarier than seeing jets over your city after all the bullshit that's been going on recently. So, number of Soviet pilots, servicemen, and civilians who died during the Second World War while ferrying planes under the Lend-Lease agreement are buried near the U.S. military base, he said. The area is a historically important place, a reminder of the military brotherhood of the peoples of our country. countries, the Kremlin aide noted. That's very sweet, but everybody knows they hate each other. The summit will open with a one-on-one conversation between Putin and Trump, accompanied by their interpreters. According to Ushkov, the talks will then continue between the Russian and U.S. delegations in a 5-on-5 format. He said, skins versus shirts. There'll be no referees, so we'll have to use the honor system when it comes to fouls. The Kremlin and the White House initially confirmed that the two leaders are expected to speak at a joint press conference following the negotiations. Trump later told Fox News Radio that if the meeting goes badly, he would speak to journalists alone. I figured he'd do that anyway, because he doesn't like to share the spotlight. Moscow's team will include Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, Finance Minister Anton Siluanov, and Special Presidential Representative for Investment and Economic Cooperation with Foreign Countries. That's a hell of a title. Kirill Dmitriev. That whole fucking title, Jesus. SPRIECFC. Forget it. As well as Yushkov himself, the Kremlin aide said, so experts will also be present at the summit. He noted that Russia has been informed of which officials will be in the U.S. delegation, but declined to name them ahead of an official statement from Washington. Trump's team is yet to be announced, although they are waiting for the circus to finish their tour. Hopefully, the clowns will show up shortly. The central issue of the summit is expected to be the Ukraine conflict. Like I said, it's funny. They're going to talk about the Ukraine conflict without the president of Ukraine there. Ooh. That's got to hurt. Yeah, Lavrov showed up with a sweatshirt with the USSR on there. He said, "You're gonna call us dirty commies? We'll wear the uniform." Yeah, I guess that's what he wore on the plane. I was expecting to come out in a suit, all business. He's just like, nah. He's got like the Back to the Future sleeveless vest on thing. Yeah. Putin said yesterday during a meeting with members of the Russian delegation. Sorry, I didn't finish that. Trade and economic issues and other bilateral cooperation will also be discussed. Putin said during a meeting with members of the Russian delegation that Trump's administration was making quite energetic and sincere efforts to end the crisis and create long-term conditions for peace between our countries. See, they all do this nice talky, kissy, and then behind closed doors, Trump's going to be like, all right, yeah, we're going to sanction the fuck out of you. And Putin's going to be like, but we have bricks, fuck you. And yeah, that's probably going to be it. And then they'll probably just flip a coin about Ukraine. Putin said during a meeting with members, was making quite okay in the crisis. Sincere efforts to end the crisis and create long-term conditions for peace between our countries. Yeah. Kremlin indicated that no documents are expected to be signed as a result of the meeting, so they're not going to make any formal, this is more of just like a meet and greet, if you will, although they've already met before, I think, in his first term. Trump has described the summit as a feel-out meeting. Yeah, I'm sure he's had a few of those, intended to help him better understand Putin's position. He has also suggested that any potential settlement in Ukraine could involve territorial exchanges with Russia and has dismissed Ukrainian reservations about such swaps. Neither Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky nor leaders from Western European nations have been invited to the talk. They didn't even invite him. I would like to comment. No, we're good. Look, we left you a nice little pillow of cocaine. Oh, you did? Ah. The summit was organized in short order after a visit by Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff to Moscow last week. Trump had long promised to end the hostilities, said he could do it in 24 hours. Remember that bullshit? But has increasingly expressed discontent with the pace of Russian-Ukrainian talks. Steve G. Hello, Steve. Activity spoken class today. What's up, y'all? The Kremlin earlier indicated that Witkoff had brought to Moscow an acceptable offer from Washington. And yeah, so that's what's going on. I don't know. So feel out meeting. There it is. They're feeling each other out. This is an old picture, but yeah, they're meeting up there in Alaska. And hopefully something will happen that's positive, but you know, come on. You really think so? We can dream, right? So Ukraine not left out of the business too much there, as Ukraine secures $1.5 billion from Europe to buy U.S.-made weapons. The crack dealer. The first one's free, the next one's you gotta buy. And so now Ukraine's like going around begging for money, much like some people in this space. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced yesterday that Kiev had secured $1.5 billion from European countries to purchase U.S.-made weapons as part of a new mechanism to fund the war, or as they call it, a scheme. As of today, we already have $1.5 billion pledged through the NATO Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List Initiative. All these fucking titles. NATO members can cooperate to purchase U.S.-made weapons for Ukraine, a mechanism that truly strengthens our defense, Zelensky wrote on the tweeters. The Netherlands and Germany reportedly contributed $500 million each, or $500 million each. Well, I guess that's the same thing. While Denmark, Norway, and Sweden pledged a combined $500 million. U.S. President Donald Trump has pressed Washington's partners in NATO to increase military spending to 5% of GDP. This requires purchasing large amounts of U.S.-made armaments, as European countries do not manufacture sufficient weapons to meet their demand. Oh. So now they're making them pay. Meanwhile, Putin said yesterday that Moscow and Washington could agree to a nuclear arms deal as part of the upcoming negotiations over the war in Ukraine. Putin was speaking to his most senior ministers and security officials on the eve of the summit today with Trump, who's pressing for an end to the war. The Russian president made the comments ahead of his eagerly anticipated meeting with his U.S. counterpart, which is taking place probably here shortly. The two presidents will first meet one-on-one with only translators present, after which additional meetings will be held involving delegations from both sides. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov said, as we told you, the settlement of the Ukrainian crisis will be the primary focus. Zelensky was not invited to the talks, warned that Ukraine will not give up its land to occupiers after Trump suggested that there could be some swapping of territories as part of a ceasefire deal. Since its invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Russia has formally claimed to annex 4 provinces in the east of the country, Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, where it long held a naval base. Over the past week, 535 Russian drones and 8 missiles targeted Ukraine. Kiev's missile defense intercepted 2/3 of the drones and 5 of the missiles. So Ukraine in a little bit of the old shit pickle there, as their fate is going to be determined without them. Wow. Is that how things are going to be in the world? Maybe. Hey, what's up, Ghost Star? Good to see you, buddy. The ADL has officially added America First to its glossary of extremism and hate terms. Are you serious? Oh, the ADL said, he said, fuck you, Trumpers. Yeah, so, but they, not really. We'll tell you more about that later in the show. We have a little something about that. But yeah, that's where we're going. You could sneeze and go achoo, and then somebody go, oh, that's a hate crime. You're trying to expel particles of your nasal cavity onto me. No, it's a sneeze, fucker. So we're going around the horn here in the U.S. first before we get to all the shitty stuff in Israel. Since Trumpy's doing the thing in Alaska. But U.S. deploys air and naval forces to southern Caribbean, or Caribbean. whichever you prefer, to address threats from cartels. Right? This has shades of going down to get, what's his name, down in, what was his name? Was it Marcos? No, it wasn't Marcos. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he's coming to get him for the drugs. He going to get them drugs. The Trump administration has ordered the deployment of U.S. air and naval forces to the southern Caribbean Sea to address threats from Latin American drug cartels, Reuters reported yesterday, citing two sources briefed on the decision. The report didn't specify what sort of action the U.S. forces may take in the southern Caribbean, but the news comes about a week after the New York Times reported that Trump secretly signed a directive to the Pentagon to begin using military force against Latin American cartels, including operations on foreign soil. The Trump administration has also listed several Latin American cartels and gangs as specially designated global terrorists, including MS-13, Tren de Aragua, Cartel de Sinaloa, and Cartel de los Soles. The U.S. also claims that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is a leader of Cartel de los Soles, meaning the Trump administration may use the action against cartels as a pretext for another regime change effort in Caracas. Placing U.S. military assets in the southern Caribbean puts them in a position for potential military action against Venezuela. We're going to invade Venezuela, y'all. We're going in. El Chapo. Sí. El Jefe. He's coming. Aquaman, a staunch supporter of the previous failed regime change in Venezuela, announced last week that the U.S. was raising the bounty on Maduro's head to $50 million over claims that he is, quote, violating U.S. narcotics laws. The administration has provided no evidence to back its claim about Maduro's alleged involvement in drug trafficking. That's the theme of the show. Remember, when you're reading these stories, folks, and you hear all this bullshit, and then you get to the point where it says somebody ain't got no evidence. And that's when you know what? I knew it. Trump has also said that Maduro was linked to Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, but Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has denied the claim and said that the statements from the U.S. were the first time she heard the allegation. On Mexico's part, there is no investigation that has to do with that, she told reporters last week. As we always say, if they have some evidence, show it. We do not have any proof. Oh, Claudia, you know they're never going to show you the proof because there ain't none. Ain't no proof. Chuck's Intergalactic UFO Show Intergalactic. Yeah, he is the original Orange Whip, isn't he? That's great. We ain't even a year into this shit either, folks. We got to get out in the streets. We got to shut it down. Shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. Talk to your peoples in transportation. That's the best place to start. Shut down the trucking, shut down the trains, shut down the airports, shut it all down, shut down capitalism, this version of it anyway, and replace it with something better, hopefully not more capitalism. So, he's fucking with everybody in the Caribbean, including Cuba, as U.S. sanctions Brazil health official over Cuba's overseas medical missions. They don't like Cuba curing cancer and shit like that, or whatever the hell they're doing down there. The U.S. has announced it is revoking the visas of Brazilian, African, and Caribbean officials over their ties to Cuba's program that sends doctors abroad, which Washington has described as forced labor. What? Pot. Hey, kettle. It's the pot. You're black. The U.S. named two Brazilian Ministry of Health officials, Mozart Julio Tabosa Salles, and Mozart, that's pretty cool, and Alberto Kleinman, who have had their visas revoked for working on Brazil's Mais Médicos, or More Doctors, program, which was created in 2013. In a statement on Wednesday, Aquaman said sanctions were imposed on officials involved in abetting the Cuban regime's coercive labor export scheme, which he claimed enriches the corrupt Cuban regime and deprives the Cuban people of essential medical care. It's circles coming out of his head. He's Aquaman. The Department of State took steps to revoke visas and impose visa restrictions on several Brazilian government officials, former Pan American Health Organization officials, and their family members for their complicity with the Cuban regime's labor export scheme in the Mais Médicos program, Rubio said. When he wasn't swallowing BB's cock, that is. In an earlier statement, Aquaman also announced visa restrictions for African officials without specifying the countries involved, as well as the Caribbean country Grenada, for the same reasons. Let's just throw Grenada in there. Why not? The Cuban government has called Washington's efforts to stop its medical missions a cynical excuse to go after its foreign currency earnings. Cuba's Deputy Director of U.S. Affairs, Johanna Tablada, said its medical cooperation will continue. Aquaman, she says Rubio's, I say Aquaman's, priorities speak volumes. Financing Israel genocide on Palestine, torturing Cuba, going after healthcare services for those who need them most, Tablada wrote on the tweeters. She ain't wrong. Cuba's international missions are sold to third countries and serve as a main source of foreign currency for the economically isolated nation, which has been subject to decades-long crippling sanctions by the U.S. Havana's international medical outreach goes back to the years following the 1959 Cuban Revolution, as Fidel Castro's communist government provided a free or low-cost medical program to developing nations as an act of international... it's free? What the fuck? Who's giving away free shit near America? Oh. It's estimated that Havana has sent between 135 and 400,000 Cuban doctors abroad in total over the past 5 decades. Brazilian Minister of Health Alejandro Padilla said his government would not bow to what he called unreasonable attacks on Mais Médicos. Cuba's contract in the program was terminated in 2018 after then-President-elect Jair Bolsonaro, questioned the terms of the agreement and Cuban doctors' qualifications. What? You're giving this shit? What? Washington is already engaged in a heated diplomatic row with President Luis Inacio Lula, that's his fucking name, his government, after imposing sanctions on Brazilian officials involved in Bolsonaro's ongoing trial over his alleged coup plot in 2022, the coup of 2022. Cuba's healthcare system is public and meant to be universally accessible, but decades of sanctions and a downturn in tourism due to Trump's travel ban mean the one-party state is no longer medically self-sufficient. Since returning to the White House, the Trump administration has resumed its maximum pressure campaign against Cuba. If communism and socialism don't work, just let it burn out on its own. Why do you have to have blockades and stuff like that? Some of that's like that's like saying, "No, he doesn't have a bigger dick than me," and then you're just like blocking the guy from him taking his pants off. Not a really good analogy, but you get the gist. Last year, the island nation of 9.7 million people could not afford the $300 million needed to import raw materials to produce hundreds of critical medicines. In July, Trump imposed sanctions against Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, Minister of the Revolutionary Armed Forces Alvaro Lopez Miera, and Minister of the Interior Lázaro Alberto Alvarez Casas for their role in the Cuban regime's brutality towards the You ever see pictures of Cuba? You ever see video of people? I ain't talking about like government video. I'm talking about just regular ass people in Cuba. Everybody's just, people like, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 and they're driving them same ass cars from the 50s, but they still look good and shit. They doing it. And just think if they didn't have the blockade, if they were allowed to do shit. If only. Sorry. I was trying to do a dream sequence where that shit was actually true. Aquaman described the medical program as one where medical professionals are rented by other countries at high prices, but most of the revenue is kept by the Cuban authorities. Well, yeah, because it's not capitalism, stupid. Where do you think the money goes? Doctors have got to make money, See the history of the American Medical Association. Ooh, that'll make your blood boil. In 1999, after Hugo Chavez's Bolivarian revolution in Venezuela, Cuba sent medical staff and educators to the country. In return, Cuba bought Venezuelan oil at below market prices, developing the idea of Havana exporting medical professionals as a source of revenue. And they're good doctors, too. Apparently, they had like the actual real vax for COVID-19. Instead of this bullshit we got here, the sugar water with whatever Satan in it. Some 30,000 Cuban medical workers were sent to Venezuela in the first 10 years of the Oil for Doctors program. Cuba later received hard currency to set up permanent medical missions in countries including South Africa, Brazil, Ecuador, and Qatar. So, yeah, let's fuck with the Caribbean scheme. Now you're ripping off these people. Hey, but we're not done with the Caribbean, folks. Our tour takes us next to Haiti and your favorite Prince of Darkness. That's right, Blackwater founder Eric Prince to send forces to Haiti to fight gangs. Do you see a pattern, folks? A private security company run by Blackwater founder Eric Prince will send hundreds of fighters to violence-racked Haiti to combat the country's gang violence problem and restore its tax collection system. There we go. Ding, 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 ding. Tax collection system. It's all about the money. They don't really care about the crime. It's about the money. According to the U.S. media reports, Prince, a controversial figure who is a major donor to Donald Trump, revealed details of the new mission for his company, Vectus Global. Yeah, that doesn't sound like some Lex Luthor shit. In an interview with the Reuters news agency on Thursday, a person with knowledge of the plans also confirmed details to the AP. Prince told Reuters that he expected Vectus Global, his U.S.-based private security firm, which provides logistics, infrastructure, and defense, would regain control of gang-held roads and territory in Haiti within about a year. Yeah, I wonder how they're going to do that. One key measure of success, one key measure of success for me will be when I pull out my giant laser beam and murder everybody. I'm sorry. One key measure of success for me will be when you can drive from Port-au-Prince to Cap Haitien in a thin-skinned vehicle and not be stopped by gangs, he told the news agency. Yeah, like he's going to hang out in Haiti. He said the company would also be involved in creating and implementing a system to tax products crossing Haiti's borders with the Dominican Republic once security was restored. For years, Haiti has been plagued by violence and insecurity as powerful armed gangs, often with ties to political and business leaders, have vied for influence and territorial control, a situation that worsened dramatically after the 2021 assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. And I'm sure, of course, the U.S. had nothing to do with this, particularly Hillary Clinton convincing them not to raise their minimum wage down there. It's probably part of it. The deployment of a UN-backed Kenya-led police mission last year has failed to restore stability. Earlier this month, the government announced a 3-month state of emergency in several parts of the country in response to the crisis. Vectus Global began its operations in Haiti in March, Reuters reported, mostly through the use of drones in coordination with a government task force. But it was set to significantly increase its activities in the coming weeks in coordination with Haitian police, Reuters reported, citing a person familiar with the matter. The source said the company would deploy several hundred personnel from the U.S., Europe, and El Salvador, who were trained as snipers and intelligence and communication specialists, along with boats and helicopters. The AP, citing a person with knowledge of the plan, said the deployment would entail nearly 200 personnel as part of a 1-year deal to tackle gang violence. It said Vectus Global would also take a long-term role in advising Haiti's government on restoring tax revenue collection once the gang violence was addressed. Say, a long-term role in advising Haiti's government on restoring tax revenue collection. That's their piece. That's the piece. That's the piece of the action, baby. Prince told Reuters that Vectis Global had a 10-year contract with the Haitian government, but would not comment on how much it was worth. I'm probably going to need those tax revenues. Is probably what they're going to get a piece of that. The Haitian government has not commented on the reports, but in June, the then leader of Haiti's Transitional Presidential Council, Fritz Alphonse Jean, confirmed that the government was using foreign contractors. The Haitian government has identified restoring tax revenues as a key factor in tackling the country's problems. Yeah. Taxation at the border used to account for half of the country's tax revenue, but gang control of transport links has hurt trade and badly affected vital government revenue streams, impacting the delivery of basic services, a report commissioned last year by Haiti's government and international organizations found. The involvement in Haiti of Prince, a former U.S. Navy SEAL who is the brother of former U.S. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. Bet you didn't know that. Betsy DeVos is the brother of Eric Prince. Has prompted concerns, especially given the controversial past of his previous company, Blackwater. Or what do you call it? Z or E? I don't know. He called it some bullshit. Prince founded Blackwater, a private military company, in 1997. The company gained global notoriety for its actions in Iraq, with 4 employees convicted over the September 2007 killings of 14 Iraqi citizens in Baghdad's Nusra Square. The contractors were later pardoned by Trump during his first term in the White House. Delicious. Prince sold Blackwater in 2010, but has remained active in the private security industry. Since Trumpy's return to the White House, he has consulted with Ecuador on how to combat gang violence and reached a deal with the Democratic Republic of Congo to help secure and tax mineral wealth. Private armies. That's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to get a hold of a nuke, and that's going to be it. Resorting to private military companies cannot be seen as a solution to insecurity in Haiti. Gideon Jean, head of Haiti's Center for Human Rights Analysis and Research, told AP, the use of private companies has often resulted in human rights violations. You think? You mean like what's going on in Gaza? The same shit. Romain Lecour Grand Maison, head of the Haiti program at Geneva-based Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, told AP that Vectis Global's mission in Haiti would violate U.S. law unless it had permission from Washington to proceed. He said its involvement was more likely to complicate the crisis in Haiti than fix it. In the absence of a coherent, jointly led Haitian and international strategy, the use of private firms is more likely to fragment authority and sovereignty than to advance resolution of the crisis, he said. The Trump administration official said the U.S. government had no involvement with the hiring of Vectis Global by the Haitian government and was not funding or exercising any oversight of the mission. Wink, 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 wink. Ow, I winked too hard. The AP reported. Earlier this year, a team from U.S. security firm Studebaker Defense ceased its operations in Haiti because the cars were crap. Oh, wait, that's defense. Never mind. After 2 personnel were abducted, likely due to corrupt police officials, according to the New York Times. So Haiti, don't Haiti the player, Haiti the game. Right? You like that one? Probably not. I don't care. So the big, beautiful bullshit bill is starting to take effect on certain people in the country. The GOP Medicaid cuts already causing healthcare havoc in multiple states. The cuts to Medicaid contained in the recently passed Republican budget law are already having a damaging impact in multiple states as both local hospitals and state governments struggle financially to make up funding gaps. And boy, just forget about those rural hospitals too, like that they've been gone for a long time. As NC Newsline reported on Wednesday, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has announced plans to cut Medicaid spending by $319 million starting October 1st, which the publication said means the state will reduce rates by 3% to all medical providers, as well as cuts of 8 to 10% for inpatient and residential services and 10% for behavioral therapy and analysis for patients with autism, which you could avoid all that shit if you had free healthcare, which we should, because it's 2025. I mean, I know some people are not into progress, but I think that's the kind of progress that everybody can benefit from, is better health. The department spokesperson, Summer Tonizo, did not sugarcoat the impact that the cuts would have on services for Medicaid patients in her state. She said that services including hospice care, behavioral health, long-term care, and nursing home services could see reimbursement cuts significantly steeper than 3%. The Tar Heel state isn't the only one reeling from Medicaid cuts, as Colorado Public Radio reported that the Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing, which manages the state's Medicaid program, held a webinar this week in which it outlined plans to, in the words of Department Director Kim Bimesteffer, mitigate the loss of coverage and its catastrophic consequences to Coloradans, providers, and the economy. This will be easier said than done, however, as Colorado Public Radio noted that numbers reviewed by the department estimate that hundreds of thousands of residents in the state could lose health care access thanks to cuts from the GOP budget package. In addition to people who will lose coverage thanks to the work requirements passed in the legislation, an estimated 112,000 people who buy health insurance policies from state agencies or state exchanges could lose it after the expected expiration of enhanced tax credits passed by Democrats during former President Joe Biden's term. Sleepy Joe. Remember that guy? Taking a look at the broader nationwide picture, Stateline reported that even some Republicans attending the National Conference of State Legislatures Summit in Boston this week expressed anxiety about the impact the cuts will have on the people whom they represent. The publication quoted Oklahoma State Senator John Hast, who said during the summit that he was particularly concerned about the impact the cuts would have on rural communities. Among other things, he pointed to a provision in the law that will deliver a $209 million cut in Medicaid funds to Oklahoma, as well as the fact that complying with work requirement verifications will cost an estimated $30 million. All of those things added together come up to a really big number, said Hast. We don't know exactly what that is. Hawaii Democratic State Senator Ron Cucci. No, that's not his name. It's not. No. That looks like Cucci. All right. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say Ronald, said during the summit that the impact of the Medicaid cuts would be absolutely brutal, but added that the only thing Democrats can do for now is stick their thumbs up their ass like they usually do. Is make sure their voters know whom to blame for what's happening. Cucci, you're so stupid. Instead of having real policies that people can get behind, let's blame the Republicans, because blaming the Republicans sure got you the presidency, didn't it? Oh, wait a minute. No, it didn't. No. They'll never those people will never fucking learn. What's up, Lainey? Good to see you, sweetie. These people will never fucking learn, man. The Democrats, they're wig. That's the wig party. It's like wig light. It's like Dollar Tree wig. Who's going to be blamed when people are left out, when people are hungry and they lose out on educational opportunities, he asked during a panel discussion. If we as state legislators do not convey that it is a result of the decision makers in Washington, D.C., they will be at our doorstep as the place of last resort. So, yeah, that's how much these fucking Democrats are fighting. You know, it did absolutely nothing. He thought I liked Coochie. Not like that. That's some bad coochie. Or as Charo would say, coochie coochie coo. Meanwhile, little Canadian news for our pals in the audience there, and for those who are interested in the goings on up north in the Northland. Air Canada has canceled flights as a thanks for the $10 there, Lainey. I appreciate you. Air Canada has canceled flights as a strike looms. Here's what it means. It means you ain't going nowhere. if you're in Canada or you take Air Canada. Air Canada, the country's largest airline, started suspending flights yesterday morning ahead of a potential strike by its flight attendants. Hundreds of flights are expected to be canceled by the end of the week if the flight attendants walk off their jobs as expected. Air Canada and the Flight Attendants Union have struggled to agree upon a deal that would increase compensation for the airline workers. So the Montreal-based airline has reached an impasse with the union representing more than 10,500 flight attendants in a dispute over compensation, apparently not getting enough maple syrup. Despite 8 months of negotiations, both the company and the union have issued notices that disruptions to the airline services will begin tomorrow. Air Canada said it will reduce flights gradually over 3 days, starting with dozens of cancellations yesterday and about 500 more by this evening. By 10 a.m. Toronto time on Saturday, all flights will be halted. Cargo services will also be affected, but Air Canada Express regional flights will operate as usual as they rely on contracts with other airlines. However, these partners handle only about 20% of Air Canada's daily passengers. Air Canada and Air Canada Rogue, a subsidiary that offers low-cost flights, carry roughly 130,000 passengers a day. In response to the walkout anticipated for early Saturday, Air Canada has announced its own lockout, a strategy that prevents employees from coming into work in order to force them to the negotiating table. That's nice. That always works. The airline has warned that once the lockout begins at about 1:30 a.m. Toronto time, it may not be able to quickly restore flights. Mark Nasser, the chief operations officer for Air Canada, explained that a restart under the best circumstances will take a full week to complete. Wages are the main sticking point in the negotiations. The Canadian Union of Public Employees, or COUPE, at least it's not Coochie, said its negotiators are unhappy with Air Canada's proposed wage hikes and other compensation terms, and they have therefore turned down an offer to move the contract discussions into arbitration. For the past 9 months, we have put forward solid, data-driven proposals on wages and unpaid work, all rooted in fairness and industry standards, because they're Canadian, said Wesley Lasowski, president of the Air Canada component of COUPE, in a statement. Air Canada's response to our proposals makes one thing clear: they are not interested in resolving these critical issues. According to the union, the airline declined to raise flight attendant pay to meet industry standards, keep pace with inflation, or match the federal minimum wage. Since I wonder what is the federal minimum wage in Canada? That's curious. Since 2000, starting wages for flight attendants with Air Canada have risen only $3 per hour. Wow. Have only risen $3. While inflation has climbed 69% over the same period, the union explained. These are some folks here. Their National Day of Action thing going on. Air Canada, however, said the union turned down a proposal sent on Monday that included a 38% pay increase over 4 years, along with other benefits and protections. But the union disputed the benefits of that deal. Instead, it explained that the flight attendants suffered a 9% cut in their last contract, meaning that an 8% increase over the first year of the new deal is inadequate to recoup the costs. It is, in effect, a pay cut, COUPE said in a statement. The union also argues that Air Canada does not currently offer ground pay, an industry term that describes compensation given for all the services provided before a plane's doors close. That work can include assistance given to travelers in the airport, baggage handling, and helping travelers get settled in their seats as the plane prepares to push back from the airport gate. For any of our federally regulated safety checks, which we do an hour before boarding, we are not compensated. We're not compensated for boarding and deplaning. Shannon Elliott, the chair of the COUPE Strike Committee, told the news outlet Global National. What? Is that for real? That's their minimum wage is $17.75? Is that for real? Fuck. Time to go to Canada. It averages about 35 hours a month that we are at work not paid. Wow. 35 hours a month. And you got to know they're making a hell of a lot more than $17.75 too. The union said that it is seeking full pay for all hours worked along with cost of living increases. Ground pay, also called boarding pay, has been a key issue in negotiations at U.S. airlines as well, since many carriers do not compensate flight attendants at their hourly rate during crucial periods before or after the flight. Why the fuck aren't they paying? What grass, gas, or ass? Nobody rides for free. Nobody flies for free either. The airline, which serves 64 countries with a fleet of 259 aircraft, said the shutdown poses a major risk to both the company and its employees. I'm sure it does. It's going to hurt these guys too. I mean, the disruption could impact 130,000 passengers each day, including 25,000 Canadians during the height of the summer travel season. Is this really the height, though? This is the dog days. Aren't people like going back to school and shit? I thought like July is usually your peak travel. This is like hurricane season. We'll tell you about that coming up. Old Aaron is getting close. Air Canada has nearly 430 daily flights between Canada and the U.S., reaching more than 50 U.S. airports. It also provides domestic service to 50 Canadian airports and averages more than 500 daily flights. The airlines said that passengers whose flights are canceled will be notified and can receive a full refund online. The airline has also arranged with other Canadian and international carriers to offer alternative travel options where possible. They're gonna get sleds out there with the sled dogs. Mush, mush, mush. But it emphasized that some flight alternatives may not be feasible. Muahhhhhh. That's funny. Back on the shit coin. I forgot. So this, can they get a refund? That's okay. All right. Given other carriers are already very full due to the summer travel peak, securing such capacity will take time, and in many cases will not be immediately possible. The airline explained. Air Canada has said it has sought government-directed arbitration to resolve the situation. Under Canada's Labour Code, the government's Labour Minister has the power to intervene and trigger the imposition of a deal through the Canada Industrial Relations Board, or CARB. That, in turn, could force flight attendants back to work. The union has asked Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney to refrain from intervening. It argued that government action would tip the negotiations in Air Canada's favor. Of course it would. Why would any employer bother negotiating if they know the government is going to bail them out when negotiations get tough? The union wrote in a letter posted to social media. Canada's Labour Minister Patty Hajdu urged both sides to return to the bargaining table. To be clear, deals that are made at the bargaining table are the best ones, she said. I urge both parties to put their differences aside, come back to the bargaining table, and get this done now for the many travelers who are counting on you, she added. Also, she said, free poutine. Man, who doesn't like poutine? Come on, boys. So, and I guess this is the letter. This is the Patty Hajdu statement. I'll have all these links, all these stories after the shizo. So Canada, Air Canada. Air Canada, Air Canada. Sorry. Is that it for our North American block? I think so. Yeah, so let's head over to hell. As Israeli minister planned settlement expansion will bury the idea of a Palestinian state. Of course, that's the goal, right? That's the goal. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich is planning to expand Israeli settlements in the West Bank. He said the thousands of new homes will bury the idea of a Palestinian state. On Wednesday, Smotrich announced the proposal of 3,400 new homes for Jewish settlers in the West Bank. The new settlement will bisect the West Bank. Approval of construction plans in E1 buries the idea of a Palestinian state and continues many steps we are taking on the ground as part of our as part of the de facto sovereignty plan that we began implementing with the establishment of the government, fuckface said. In May, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved a resolution that gives Tel Aviv full control over Area C of the West Bank. At the time, Smotrich touted the decision as a de facto annexation of over half of the West Bank. His overall goal for the West Bank is to give the choice between subjection, emigration, and death. Under Bibi, Tel Aviv has long worked to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state. The prime minister even approved the funding of Hamas to give Israel a pretext not to engage in the diplomatic process with the Palestinians. In an interview earlier this week, Bibi was asked by former Israeli lawmaker Sharon Gal if the prime minister had a vision of greater Israel. Netanyahu replied, very much. I plan on stealing all these motherfuckers' land. I'm going to kill everybody because the U.S. has my back. I'm sorry, that's not what he said, or at least not in this article. Some Israelis' vision of greater Israel includes Gaza, the West Bank, along with parts of Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Syria, and Iraq. The old greater Israel. Smotrich, who is a settler and is the leader of the religious Zionist party, says he has the prime minister's support. Because they're both evil fuckheads. He backs me up in everything concerning Judea and Samaria and is letting me create the revolution, he said Thursday. Yeah, and none too pleased about that as the European Union, Norway, rights groups shit on their West Bank settlement plan, basically. So Smotrich announced work would start on a long-delayed settlement that would divide the West Bank and cut it off from East Jerusalem, a move his office said would bury the idea. The Palestinian government, allies, and campaign groups condemned the scheme, calling it illegal and saying the fragmentation of territory would rip up peace plans for the region. That's pretty much what they want, too. Standing at the site of the planned settlement in Ma'ale Adumim on Thursday, Smotrich, a settler himself, said Netanyahu and Trumpy had agreed to the revival of the E1 development. However, there was no immediate confirmation from either. Well, he's just, what, he's talking shit? Wow, I'm shocked. Whoever in the world is trying to recognize a Palestinian state will receive our answer on the ground, not with documents nor with decisions or statements, but with facts of houses, facts of neighborhoods, yada, yada, yada. Israel froze construction plans at Ma'ale Adumim in 2012 and again after a revival in 2020 because of objections from the U.S., European allies, and other powers who consider the project a threat to any future peace deal with the Palestinians. Restarting the project could further isolate Israel, which has watched some of its Western allies condemn its military offensive in Gaza and announce they're going to recognize a Palestinian state. Most of them said they're going to do it next month at the UN. Palestinians fear the settlement building in the West Bank, which has sharply intensified since the 2023 Hamas attack on Israel that led to the Gaza war, allegedly, will rob them of any chance to build a state of their own in the area. In a statement headlined, "Burying the Idea of a Palestinian State," Smotrich's spokesperson said the minister had approved the plan to build those houses for settlers between an existing settlement in the West Bank and Jerusalem. In Ma'ale Adumim, Smotrich said the plan would go into effect on Wednesday. So that was 2 days ago. Breaking the silence, an Israeli, or maybe that's next Wednesday. Breaking the silence, an Israeli rights group established by former Israeli soldiers said what it called a land grab will not only further fragment the Palestinian territory, but will further entrench apartheid. Again, part of the plan. Nabil Abu Rudineh, the Palestinian president's spokesperson, called on the U.S. to pressure Israel to stop settlement building. The Palestinian Authority, they're too pussy to now. They're saying, Hamas should disarm, and Hezbollah should disarm, but now they're like, they're taking your shit, they're taking your land, dude. Keep your weapons. The EU rejects any territorial change that is not part of a political agreement between the involved parties, so annexation of territory is illegal under international law. That's not news. That's been known for years. European Commission spokesperson Anita Hipper said. Hipper. Norwegian Foreign Minister Epson Barth Eid said the move by Smotrich and ultranationalists in the ruling right-wing coalition who has long advocated for Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank showed that Israel seeks to appropriate land owned by Palestinians in order to prevent a two-state solution. Yeah, so they're trying to do all this, grab all this land as much as possible before all these people start, isolating them, I guess. Peace Now, which tracks settlement activity in the West Bank, said there were still steps needed before construction. However, if all goes through, infrastructure work could begin within a few months and house building could start about a year later. The E1 plan is deadly for the future of Israel and for any chance of achieving a peaceful two-state solution. Well, you're not going to get a two-state solution either. It's not going to happen. We're standing at the edge of an abyss, and the government is driving us forward at full speed, Peace Now said in a statement. Consecutive Israeli governments have initiated, approved, planned, and funded settlements, according to Israeli rights group Yesh Din. Some settlers moved to the West Bank for religious or ideological reasons, while lower housing costs and government incentives drew others. By lower housing costs, they meant stealing somebody's house. They include American and European dual citizens. Palestinians were already demoralized by the Israeli military campaign, which has killed more than 61,000 people, probably triple that number, I would assume, according to local health authorities, and fear Israel will ultimately push them out of that territory. About 700,000 Israeli settlers live among 2.7 million Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Israel annexed East Jerusalem in a move not recognized by most countries, but has not formally extended sovereignty over the West Bank. The UN and most world powers say settlement expansion has eroded the viability of a two-state solution by fragmenting Palestinian territory. The two-state plan envisages a Palestinian state in East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza existing side by side with Israel. Most of the global community considers all settlements illegal under international law. Israel rejects this interpretation, of course, saying the West Bank is disputed rather than occupied territory. Wow. That's some propaganda shit right there. Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand imposed sanctions in June on Smotrich and other far-right ministers, and another far-right minister who advocates for settlement expansion, accusing both of them of repeatedly inciting violence against Palestinians in the West Bank. Yeah. So none too thrilled about that. And probably why is because Israeli strikes intensify at Al Zaytun. 300 homes destroyed in 3 days. At least 16 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes on various parts of the Strip since dawn yesterday, including 5 people who were waiting to receive aid. Al Jazeera reported, citing hospital sources. It's always people waiting to receive aid that get capped. The Ministry of Health in Gaza said that 8 people, including 3 children, had died in the past 24 hours due to starvation and malnutrition, raising the total famine-related death toll to 235, among them 106 children. 8 Palestinians were killed on Thursday morning in an Israeli raid targeting an inhabited home in the Al Zaytun neighborhood southeast of Gaza City. A source at the Al-Ali Baptist Hospital confirmed that 2 people were killed in an airstrike on the Tufa neighborhood east of Gaza City, while 2 others were killed in a drone attack on the same area. An Israeli helicopter strike on an apartment near the Samar Junction in Gaza City wounded several people, according to medical sources. Anadolu news agency, citing local sources and eyewitnesses, reported that the Israeli army also demolished homes and residential buildings in the Al Zaytun neighborhood alongside heavy artillery shelling. In Khan Yunis, south of the Strip, a medical source reported that at least 1 person was killed and several were injured when Israeli forces opened fire on people waiting for aid near the Morag axis. On Thursday morning, Israeli aircraft carried out strikes alongside continuous artillery shelling on Al Zaytun, where the army has destroyed 300 homes over the past 3 days following the approval of a plan to occupy the entire Gaza Strip. Southern Al-Zaytun lies in the Gaza Valley, adjacent to the so-called Netzarim axis, an area under Israeli control where Palestinians are barred from residing or traveling except to collect what Israel calls U.S. aid. Right. Well, you could come here to die is basically what they're saying. Yesterday, Israeli Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir approved the main elements of the plan to reoccupy Gaza, beginning with the assault on Al-Zaytun, which the army said commenced on Tuesday. Mahmoud Bassal, spokesperson for the Palestinian Civil Defense in Gaza, told Anadolu Agency that the Israeli military has been conducting an intensive operation in Al-Zaytun for several days, combining heavy bombardment with large-scale home demolitions. Bassal said the army destroyed more than 300 homes in the neighborhood in just 3 days, committing massacres by blowing up houses with residents still inside. He added that the military has been using high explosive bombs designed to cause maximum destruction, targeting multi-story residential buildings, terrifying residents, and forcing many to flee. The assault comes days after Israel's security cabinet approved a plan by Benjamin Netanyahu to reoccupy the entire Gaza Strip. Of course, he's wanted by the ICC and the ICJ. The move has sparked protests in Israel, with opponents warning that such an operation would be a death sentence for prisoners held in Gaza. The plan's first stage involves seizing Gaza, displacing its approximately 1 million residents to the south, encircling the city, and conducting incursions into residential neighborhoods. The second stage targets refugee camps in central Gaza, many of which have already been destroyed in the war that's raged since October 7, 2023. In contrast, Zamir has proposed an alternative approach to encircle Gaza on several fronts to pressure Hamas into releasing prisoners while avoiding strategic entanglements. With U.S. backing, Israel has been waging a campaign of genocide in Gaza since October 7th, involving mass killing, starvation, destruction, and forced displacement in defiance of international calls and binding orders from the ICJ to stop. Okay. And there are the numbers. Of course, these numbers are way off. So more fuckery for Israel. And guess what? They need more people. As Israel's moves to call up 100,000 reservists for the Gaza City occupation plan. Yeah. This is where the Orthodox Jews there are, they're calling them draft dodgers, but they're like, they are not having this. The Haredi, I think they were called. The Israeli military plans to call up between 80 and 100,000 reservists for a potential operation to occupy Gaza City, Israeli media reported on Thursday. According to the Israeli newspaper Yedioth Ahronoth, further discussions are expected in the coming days on the nature of the planned occupation, including strategies for maneuvering within the city, targeting high-rise buildings in the west, and confronting resistance forces prepared by the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas. The report stated that the military campaign could continue until 2026 in Gaza City and the northern Gaza Strip, where Hamas cells are allegedly operating. In protest against the dangers the reoccupation poses to the lives of Israeli prisoners, families of detainees and fallen soldiers are planning a nationwide strike on October 17th. I believe we're going to be telling you about that in a second. The action is expected to disrupt daily lives with participation from companies and universities. On Wednesday, Israeli Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir reportedly approved the plan, the main concept of the plan to reoccupy the entire strip, including an assault on the Zaytun neighborhood, which they did. Zamir emphasized the importance of increasing the readiness and willingness of the forces to recruit reservists, noting that the draft remains a contentious political issue as tens of thousands of Haredim refused to serve those ultra-Orthodox Jews. The ultra-Orthodox Jews. His approval followed earlier remarks in which he had expressed reservations about occupying Gaza City, stressing the need to allow troops rest periods to maintain combat capability. The Israeli government has not announced a specific start date for the operation, though bombardment of the city has intensified over the past 2 days, causing dozens of deaths and injuries. Netanyahu claimed Israel was close to ending the battle, saying forces would advance relatively quickly to seize control of Gaza City, which he described as Hamas's last stronghold. Israel occupied the Gaza Strip from 1967 to 2005. That's, do the math there. That's what, 38 years? Oh, yeah, well, it says 38 years. You have to do the math. I'm so stupid. Just read stupid. The territory, home to approximately 2.2 million Palestinians, has been under an Israeli blockade for the past 18 years. The plan to reoccupy Gaza has drawn criticism from governments and civil society worldwide, with warnings of a sharp rise in Palestinian casualties amid what has been described as Israel's ongoing war of extermination and systematic destruction in the Strip. Okay. And over 100 aid groups working in Gaza say Israel is weaponizing aid with new NGO registration rule. It's from Dave DeCamp over at antiwar.com. Be sure you're checking out antiwar.com. They have updated every day. Great news aggregation, great journalism going on over there. There and the Libertarian Institute as well. They do good stuff there too. A lot of the same people. More than 100 aid groups working in Gaza and the West Bank have signed a letter saying that Israel is weaponizing aid, a warning that comes as people are starving to death every day in Gaza due to the U.S.-backed Israeli blockade. The statement said that in July alone, 60 requests to deliver aid to Gaza were rejected by Israel over claims that the organizations, which have a history of operating in Gaza, were not authorized to deliver aid. This obstruction has left millions of dollars worth of food, medicine, water, and shelter items stranded in warehouses across Jordan and Egypt, while Palestinians are being starved, the letter said. The letter, signed by Doctors Without Borders, Oxfam, Save the Children, and several other major organizations, came in response to a new Israeli rule for international NGOs operating in the Palestinian territories that required them to provide a list of their donors and identify their Palestinian staff. Unless INGOs submit to the full registration requirements, including the mandatory submission of details of private donors, complete Palestinian staff lists, and other sensitive information about personnel for so-called security vetting to Israeli authorities, many could be forced to halt operations in Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and remove all international staff within 60 days, the letter states. Aww. The aid groups noted the large number of aid workers who have been killed by the IDF in Gaza since October 7th. In the deadliest context for aid workers worldwide, where 98% of those humanitarians killed were Palestinian, and NGOs have no guarantees that handing over such information would not put staff at further risk or be used to advance the government of Israel's stated military and political aims. You will provide the list. The group said that Israel was now using the registration rule to further block aid and deny food and medicine in the midst of the worst-case scenario of famine. In the Gaza Strip, some aid groups said they have been unable to deliver any aid to Gaza due to Israeli restrictions. Since the full siege was imposed on March 2nd, CARE has not been able to deliver any of our $1.5 million worth of pre-positioned supplies into Gaza, says Jolien Veldwick, the Gaza director for the international humanitarian aid group CARE. Oxfam said that it has over $2.5 million worth of goods that have been rejected from entering Gaza by Israel, especially wash and hygiene items as well as food. The aid groups called on states to pressure Israel to end the weaponization of aid and demand the immediate and unconditional opening of all land crossings and conditions for the delivery of life-saving humanitarian aid. Israel and its supporters in the U.S. have claimed that Israel was not responsible for the hunger in Gaza, but a recent report from the Israeli newspaper Haaretz detailed how Israeli restrictions were responsible for starving people. Yeah, they're starving people. It's straight up starving and murdering people there. So, now there's a call from the Israeli hostages that Hamas was keeping that have been released, and they know that this occupation of Gaza is just going to mean the death of probably all of these hostages, because they don't care, right? They don't. It's the Hannibal directive. Kill them all. Released Israeli hostages urge Trump to secure prisoner deal in Gaza war. 6 former Israeli hostages and the widow of another have appealed to Trump to intervene to secure an immediate agreement for the release of all remaining captives in Gaza and end the war in the enclave, local media reported. In a recorded video message, the 7 speakers warned that Israel's new plan to fully reoccupy Gaza and expand military operations puts each and every one of them, the hostages, in very great danger, according to the Times of Israel news outlet. Woo! That one was stubborn. Still is. Sorry. Gotta have a little beverage here. Delicious. Their appeal came a day after Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir approved the main framework of the reoccupation plan. The plea also coincided with a Thursday report by the Daily Yediot Ahronoth that Trump may visit Israel in September. Interesting. That's when a lot of these other countries are supposedly supposed to recognize Palestine in September. President Trump, you have the power to make history, to be the president of peace who ended the war, end the suffering, and bring every hostage home, they addressed the president, to which they replied, "Did you vote for me? Oh, you didn't? No, well, fuck off." They voiced confidence in Trump's ability to reach an immediate comprehensive deal to free all 50 remaining hostages and end the Gaza war. Your leadership and your courage gave us back our lives and our families. We are here today because you chose to act. 50 hostages are still there, they said. The former hostages in the video were identified as Naama Levy, Ohad Ben Ami, Doron Steinbrecher, Sasha Trufanov, Arbel Yehud, and Yair Horn, along with Michael Lobanov, the widow of Alex Lobanov, who was killed in Gaza in August 2024. The plea came as Israeli protesters blocked the central Ayalon highway in Tel Aviv, demanding a prisoner swap with Palestinian resistance factions that would secure the release of all captives in Gaza, the public broadcaster Khan reported. According to the broadcaster, the demonstrators shut down the key roadway which links northern and southern Tel Aviv, urging the government to finalize a deal to free all captives, even if it comes at the cost of ending the war in Gaza. Organizers said in a statement that blocking the Ayalon highway marked the starting whistle for a week of protest activities beginning next Sunday, with a general strike called by families of those held in Gaza. Opposing Israel's plan to reoccupy Gaza over what they see as risks to their relatives' lives in Gaza, families of hostages and fallen soldiers say they will stage a nationwide general strike on August 17th. That's going to be Monday. Is it? No, it's Sunday, right? That's Sunday. Disrupting daily life with participation from businesses and universities, according to the Israeli media. On Monday, the Israel Hayom Daily reported that several Israeli companies have agreed to join the planned strike and disrupt economic activity to press for a deal to get all captives freed. Israeli authorities estimate that 50 hostages remain in Gaza, including 20 alive. More than 10,800 Palestinians are held in Israeli prisons, where many face torture, starvation, and medical neglect that has caused multiple deaths, according to Palestinian and Israeli human rights and media reports. Israel is facing mounting condemnation for its genocidal war on Gaza, where it's killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And of course, you know about the ICC, issued arrest warrants for them. And so they have a genocide case at the ICJ as well. So what's going to happen? Are they going to actually end the war? No. They're going to do what Trump does here in America. They're going to push the envelope and see how far they can go with this, right? Who's going to stop them? Seriously, at this point, who's going to stop them? Nobody so far. Unless the world actually stands up and stops these motherfuckers, They're going to keep doing this. They're going to keep doing this, and they're going to keep doing this. Meanwhile, in the UK, British MPs urged Starmer to immediately expel Israeli ambassador. This guy, this fucking game show host. He looks like, I don't know, he looks like somebody that's like an asshole on one of those British comedies. You know, everybody else is sweet and nice, and then he's the asshole. Only he's not funny. A cross-party group of MPs have sent a letter to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, urging him to immediately expel Israel's ambassador to the UK, Zippy Hotovely. Zippy. The letter sent to Starmer on Thursday described Israel's actions in Gaza as genocidal. Leading signatory Adnan Hussein, an independent MP, said the letter requested that the government act urgently in the face of genocide in Gaza. It has been signed by every member of the Parliamentary Independent Alliance, as well as some Green Party and Scottish National Party MPs. The letter is also signed by Labour MP Abtisam Mohammed, who sits on Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, which scrutinizes foreign policy. Those behind the letter say that since Britain is a signatory to the Genocide Convention, it has a clear and binding legal obligation to prevent genocide wherever it occurs. But the UK said, nah, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. We can do whatever we want. Nobody's going to fuck with this. The letter calls on the government to immediately expel the Israeli ambassador to the United Kingdom as a signal that the UK will not tolerate the continued defiance of international law and the perpetuation of mass atrocities. Hotovely, once called the Nakba, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine in 1948, an Arab lie, and is an avowed opponent of the creation of a Palestinian state. The ambassador is also a prominent figure in the UK and regularly intervenes in domestic British politics. In recent months, she has attacked the BBC and the Mayor of London. That would be the British Broadcasting Company, not the, you know. It emerged last week that Hotovely has met with key Labour Party donors and British pro-Israel lobbyists throughout Israel's genocide in Gaza. Her diary was obtained and reported on by Declassified UK. Good for you. I love Declassified UK. After being released following a Freedom of Information request by lawyer Elad Man at Hatzlacha, an NGO promoting social justice in Israel. Last year, she twice met Stuart Roden, a chairman of Israeli venture capital firm Hetz Ventures, who donated over £500,000 to Labour ahead of the 2024 general election that brought the party to power. Hotovely also met Jonathan Goldstein, a property tycoon and former chair of the Jewish Leadership Council, an umbrella body that represents major British Jewish organizations. Goldstein financially backed Foreign Secretary David Lammy's failed campaign to become London mayor in 2014. The signatories to Thursday's letter further urged the government to enforce and support international sanctions on Israel, lead an international effort to deliver immediate and unhindered humanitarian aid to Gaza, and support the International Criminal Court's investigations. The letter expresses horror at the Israeli government's intentions to carry out a full military occupation of the Gaza Strip. This declaration is the latest escalation in a campaign that has already led to the near total destruction of Gaza, it says. The government cannot continue to provide political cover or military support, directly or indirectly, to actions that amount to genocide. We make this statement not only as members of parliament, but as human beings. Our silence or inaction in the face of genocide is not neutrality. It is complicity. Exactly. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice, as they said, as Rush said. I will choose free will. Sorry. We shift our focus now over to Afghanistan. As you know, it's been 4 years since I think the Taliban took over. Was that right? I think it's Taliban. Anyway, shit ain't been doing too good over there. We might have to bring in some democracy, y'all. Human Rights Watch warns of deepening crisis in Afghanistan. On the eve of the 4th anniversary of the Islamic Emirates' return to power, Human Rights Watch has described the situation in Afghanistan as critical. According to the organization, the suspension of U.S. aid, the forced deportation of Afghan refugees from Iran and Pakistan, and the imposition of restrictions on Afghan migrants in foreign countries are among the causes of the worsening humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. The deputy director of Human Rights Watch's Washington office told Tolo News, that's where this is coming from, that the situation of women and children is concerning. She criticized the restrictions imposed on girls and women in Afghanistan, stressed that the Islamic Emirate must protect and uphold the rights of all individuals in the country, and called on the international community to support humanitarian needs in Afghanistan. Nicole Wittersheim said, we are also calling on international community to support the humanitarian needs with many others. It is ourselves in a chorus of voices of NGOs and Afghans outside of the country who are raising these needs. So we would say that 4 years of rule and looking forward to another year and more of Taliban rule does not bode well for Afghan civilians. And in particular, Afghan women and children, and, whoever is the authority de facto internationally, recognizing or not over Afghanistan territory, has a responsibility to protect and uphold the human rights of every single human being in their control and in their borders, and that is not taking place right now in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, a number of women's rights activists believe that the Islamic Emirate, alongside all its positive activities, should reopen the closed doors of schools and universities to girls. Mumtaz Yousafzai, a women's rights activist, said over the past 4 years there have been positive aspects, but the negative aspect has been that women have been removed from public life, which itself is a major challenge. Education has been a very important and fundamental issue in the country. Previously, the Islamic Emirate has consistently assured that the rights of all citizens are upheld and has called on countries and international institutions not to interfere in the internal affairs of Afghanistan, including the matter of education. Yeah, of course not. They don't want smart women over there. Hell yeah, Rush. You're right, Stephanie. I saw him twice. I saw him once in New Orleans and I saw him in Nashville. The one in Nashville was at outside. It was at an amphitheater. It was still one of the loudest concerts I ever heard. It was outside. It was crazy. I will choose free will. Meanwhile, there's grease fires. Don't use water. Make sure you put a lid on it. Not that kind of grease fire, stupid. Thousands battle grease fires as heat wave bakes Europe. It's burning over there. Greece on Wednesday battled to contain more than 20 wildfires, including one menacing its third largest city, Patras, as a heat wave stoked blazes and forced the evacuation of thousands in southern Europe. You saw him during the Grace Under Pressure? Nice. I saw him during, I think Rolled the Bones was the first one I saw, and I can't remember the other one, but it's good stuff. R.I.P. Neil Peart. Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, the Balkans, and Britain have this week wilted in high temperatures that fuel wildfires, and which scientists say human-induced climate change is intensifying. Since dawn on Wednesday, 4,850 firefighters and 33 planes were mobilized across Greece on what promised to be a very difficult day. Fire service spokesman Vasilis Vathrakaganganis, I ain't saying that name again. A fire near the ancient Mycenaean archaeological site of Vudani, just 7 kilometers from Patras, threatened forested zones and homes, and the area was covered by a thick cloud of smoke, an AFP journalist reported. Fierce wind is hampering the task of water bombers and is making collecting water at sea more difficult, the president of the Firefighter Officers Union, Kostas Sigkas, told public broadcaster ERT. In the western Achaia region in the Peloponnese, to which the coastal city of Patras belongs, around 20 villages were evacuated on Tuesday. Other fronts were burning on the popular tourist island of Zante and the Aegean island of Chios, scarred by a huge wildfire in June that ravaged more than 4,000 hectares. The Greek Coast Guard said it had helped evacuate nearly 80 people from Chios and near Patras. The National Ambulance Service reported 52 hospitalizations from Achaia, Chios, and the western town of Preveza, including a small number of firefighters, mostly for respiratory problems and minor burns. Temperatures are due to come close to 40 degrees Celsius in parts of western Greece, including the Northwest Peloponnese. National Weather Service EMY forecast. After Greece requested 4 water bombers from the EU Civil Protection Mechanism to bolster its resources, leftist opposition party Syriza criticized the conservative government's preparation for the fires that hit every year. Greece needed a bold redistribution of resources in favor of civil protection, an emphasis on prevention, better coordination, and new technologies in its civil protection system, Syriza said. At the end of the Mediterranean, wildfires continued to dominate the news in Spain, where cooler temperatures and greater humidity were expected to help control blazes in which 2 people have died. Authorities in the northwestern region of Castile and Leon, where flames have threatened a World Heritage Roman mining site, said almost 6,000 people from 26 localities had been evacuated from their homes. Bushy undergrowth and searing temperatures that have baked Spain for almost 2 weeks had created the worst possible breeding ground for this situation, Castile and Leon's civil protection head Irene Cortez said. A total of 199 wildfires have scorched nearly 98,784 hectares across Spain this year, more than double the area burned during the same period last year. Neighboring Portugal deployed more than 1,800 firefighters and around 20 aircraft against 5 major blazes, with efforts focused on a blaze in the central municipality of Trancoso that has raged since Saturday. Strong gusts of wind had rekindled flames overnight and threatened nearby villages, where television images showed locals volunteering to help firefighters under a thick cloud of smoke. It's scary, but we are always ready to help each other, a mask-wearing farmer told Sic Noticias television, holding a spade in his hand. Italian firefighters had extinguished a blaze that burned for 5 days on the famed Mount Vesuvius. Yeah, you don't want fires on Mount Vesuvius, that's for sure. And spewed plumes of smoke over the Naples area. In Britain, temperatures were expected to peak at 34 degrees Celsius in the country's 4th heat wave of the summer. The UK Health Security Agency warned of significant impacts on health and social care services for the parts of central and southeastern England where the harshest heat was forecast. And so the thing about fire on Mount Vesuvius, that's not how volcanoes work, obviously. But, I'm just saying, the last time there was fire up there, it was not a good time had by anybody. Bella. Watch Vesuvius. That's right, Edgar Casey. You damn right. Oh, you saw them in 90? I saw them in 92, P-Stub. I think that's when I saw them in New Orleans. Interesting. You saw Rush at Columbus Amphitheater well after their fame days. Yeah, no. I caught them in early 90s. So I got them before yeah. Anyway, so you go from fires from fires to floods, man, as India and Pakistan, if they don't have enough problems already, flash floods kill at least 160 in Pakistan, scores still missing. Rescuers in Indian Kashmir use shovels and earth movers to search for survivors under boulders and debris on Friday, a day after sudden floods triggered by heavy rains killed at least 160 people and left 200 others missing. Gushing mudslides and floodwaters inundated the village of Chasori on Thursday, washing away pilgrims who had gathered for lunch before trekking up the hill for a popular religious site in the second such disaster in the Himalayas in a little over a week. We heard a huge sound, and it was followed by a flash flood and slush. People were shouting, and some of them fell in the Chenab River. Others were buried under the debris, said Rakesh Sharma, a pilgrim who was injured. Bags, clothes, and other belongings caked in mud lay scattered amid broken electric poles and mud on Friday as rescue workers used ropes and crossed makeshift bridges in an attempt to extricate people from the debris. At least 117 people were killed in monsoon rains in Pakistan in the last 24 hours. Disaster authorities said on Friday, with more than 100 injured and another 200 still missing. The Himalayas are prone to floods and landslides, but some scientists say the intensity and frequency of these events are increasing due to climate change. The Makail Yatra is a popular pilgrimage to the high-altitude Himalayan shrine of Makail Mata, one of the manifestations of the goddess Durga. Pilgrims trek to the temple from Chasodi, where the road for vehicles ends. Thursday's incident comes a little over a week after a similar flood and mudslide engulfed an entire village in the Himalayan state of Uttarakhand. Nature has been testing us in the last few days. We have had to deal with landslides, cloudbursts, and other natural calamities. Prime Minister Modi said at the start of a nearly 2-hour speech on the country's 79th Independence Day. A cloudburst, according to the Indian Meteorological Department, is a sudden intense downpour of over 100 millimeters or 4 inches of rain in just 1 hour that can trigger sudden floods, landslides, and devastation, especially in mountainous regions during the monsoon. In neighboring Nepal, at least 41 people have died, 21 are missing, and 121 injured in floods, heavy rains, landslides, and hailstorms since early monsoon rain started in June this year, according to data provided by the country's Disaster Management Authority. Excuse me. And more than 50 people were killed overnight in rain-soaked or rain-related incidents across the mountainous north of Pakistan, as rescue officials said on Friday. Flooding and the collapse of the roofs of houses caused the deaths. In Pakistan-administered Kashmir, where 8 people were killed, including 6 members of a family buried in the debris of their home, evacuation operations were ongoing for stranded domestic tourists. So yeah, they get these downpours too, but also what's happening too, as the planet heats up, these when you go to the mountains, you're going to have these glaciers, right? And when these glaciers start melting, it don't necessarily have to melt the whole thing. You just melt like a good piece, and all of a sudden that breaks off and all hell breaks loose, and then you got flash floods there too. Yeah. So terrible for all those people in Europe and you know, in the in India and Pakistan too. The what do they call that? The subcontinent. So we got not really much news on Aaron. I just wanted to show you the update. This is Tropical Storm Aaron. I'm on Zoom Earth here. You can look at this yourself anytime you want. Just go to Zoom Earth to zoom out. And so here it is right here. It's a Category 1 hurricane now, so it's not a tropical storm anymore. It's sustained winds of 75 miles per hour, and you can see the track here. It's making a kind of a northwest track, like a I don't know, like a west-northwest track. They are claiming it's going to be here, a Category 3 hurricane on Wednesday. So looking at it through here, who's going to be affected this weekend? So right now, who is, whoa, baby. So these islands here, are this the British Isles? I don't know what these are. Guadalupe, Liberta, Antigua, and Barbuda. So they're starting to get it. Puerto Rico is probably start getting it once it hits here, probably around Saturday morning, once the eye gets it right. Because you can see it's not just the eye, it's all the shit around it too, right? So it's going to come up here. So Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, 105. There should be a Cat 2 by the time it gets here, and then we may not have to worry about it, although Miami, Florida, you never know, right? Once it hits, it follows. It's like water going down a hill, right? It takes the path of least resistance. And in this case, hurricanes, they feed on that warm water. So whichever water is warmest, they're going to head to that. So if the water's warmer here, it's going to head up towards here. And that's where they're projecting it. But it could be if it gets too close over here, it could get sucked over into the Gulf. And you say, well, Warren, you're not a meteorologist. How the fuck you know about this shit? I've been through so many damn hurricanes. I should be a meteorologist at this point. So anyway, we're keeping an eye on that. And of course, next week, we'll see what's going on with it. Hopefully nobody gets hurt or anything like that. It's the last thing we want. You know, this is the segue of all segues, right? So these hurricanes do come from Africa. You know who else is in for Africa? Nigeria. You're welcome. Army armed groups killing thousands in southeast Nigeria, according to Amnesty. Thousands of people have been killed and hundreds arbitrarily detained by security forces and armed groups in southeast Nigeria since a crackdown on a regional independence movement a decade ago. That's according to Amnesty International on Wednesday. Autonomy remains a hot button issue in the oil-rich region more than 5 decades after a brutal civil war put an end to the breakaway Republic of Biafra in the 1960s. Though the region is considered far less restive than the jihadist-hit Northeast, pro-sovereignty protests in 2015 and 16 were met with a sweeping crackdown that has sparked an endless cycle of bloodshed. Issa Sanusi, director of the Nigerian affiliate of the rights group, said in a new report. Speaking at a news conference for the report's publication in the capital, Abuja, Merit Ifedi, a young adult, told an audience of diplomats and civil society representatives that her parents were taken from her home in Enugu State in 2021 by armed men, some of whom wore military uniforms, and she has not seen them since. I'm just asking the government to please release my parents, or they should just bring them to court, she said. Across the region, more than 1,800 people were killed by state and non-state actors between January 2021 and June 2023, though no one knows exactly the number, Sanusi said. A thriving drug trade also contributes to the toll, while the state-backed Ibube Agu paramilitary group has been used as a tool to harass and intimidate opponents and critics of the state governments, Amnesty said. A hybrid of criminal and political violence allows both authorities and armed groups to manipulate events to their advantage, the report argued. It documented more than 400 people killed by unknown gunmen in the Imo state between January 2019 and December 2021. The gunmen often appear at burials and weddings to demand money, attacking those who refuse to pay. Jesus, they go to funerals. Authorities have routinely blamed the attacks on the indigenous people of Biafra, the IPOB, separatist group, and its affiliated paramilitary, the Eastern Security Network. Amnesty said its research showed that in many cases, a wide range of criminal groups were behind the attacks, not IPOB, and that at least some of the gunmen's camps are well known by residents and security agents. At the same time, IPOB has been accused of violently enforcing regular sit-at-home orders that shut down markets, travel, and schools across the Southeast as a form of economic protest. IPOB has denied enforcing the protests violently, blaming criminals for doing so. Sanusi told AFP that both the military and the separatist stories strained credibility. This back and forth is just going to leave the victims without justice, he said. Neither the Army nor IPOB returned an AFP request for comment. And finally, in our news block today, North Korea will change constitution to tell South Korea to fuck off. No, wait, to forbid improving ties with the South. What they said, we are done with your shit. The sister of Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un said on Thursday that the country's constitution will be changed to state that Pyongyang will not improve its relationship with South Korea. So basically saying, look, it ain't working out. You know, we tried and, you know, yeah, we're great in bed together, but we ought to ace this. Sorry, 86. The sister of Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un said on Thursday that the country's constitution will be changed to state that Pyongyang will not improve its relationship with South Korea. Kim Yo-jong previously ruled out talks with South Korea, but said Pyongyang remains open to engaging with the U.S. if Washington drops its demand for denuclearization. We have clarified on several occasions that we have no will to improve relations with the Republic of Korea, a faithful servant and ally of the U.S., and this conclusive stand and viewpoint will be fixed in our Constitution in the future, she said, according to a statement published by North Korean state media. The Republic of Korea stipulated its wild ambition for unification by absorption in its constitution, organized the U.S. ROK Nuclear Consultative Group, focusing on preemptive nuclear strike at the DPRK, and regularly holds a confab, Kim continued, and it is engrossed in different war drills of aggressive nature while repeating such a silly task as denuclearization and totally denying our Constitution. The U.S. and South Korea are preparing to kick off major war games. Pyongyang views the military drills as highly provocative and typically responds with reciprocal drills and missile tests. Kim has made several major foreign policy announcements in recent weeks. In July, she unequivocally stated that Pyongyang had no interest in direct talks with Seoul. She pointed to the U.S.-South Korean military relationship as the primary reason for rejecting talks with Seoul, underscoring the tension on the Korean peninsula. In a separate statement, Kim explained that Pyongyang would engage with Washington if the U.S. dropped the demand that North Korea denuclearize, because that ain't happening, she said. FTS, fuck that shit, it ain't happening. How we doing, everybody? Where are we at? That was a news block from hell. We still got lots to go. Maybe. Oh. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. I went to an elementary school with a Therese Peterson. Take that, Catholic Eastside School. I love out of context comments. That's awesome. I haven't been paying attention. I've been doing this news thing. So, anybody else sneak in here? You? Everybody good? All right. So, you know, we talked about how UK is basically Israel's bitch, just like the United States. Well, an internal paper is showing the EU wanted to protect their girlfriend as well.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some of the outlets publish things they are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, so internal paper shows EU sought to shield Israel from sanctions. Dun, dun, dun. An internal paper reveals that European Union officials have gone to considerable lengths in assuring Israel that they would continue cooperating with it during the genocidal war against Gaza. Despite frequent talk about how red lines must not be crossed, you know those red lines, the EU has so far backed away from collectively sanctioning the Israeli state as it massacres and starves Palestinians. The determination to preserve a business-as-usual approach is evident from a September 2024 document obtained via a Freedom of Information request. High-level Brussels officials held a discussion that month with Dror Ben. That sounds like some made-up name. Head of the Israel Innovation Authority. Briefing notes prepared for the meeting celebrated the EU's partnership with Israel on scientific research as excellent and beneficial to both parties. The paper makes clear that the European Commission, the EU's executive, wish to preserve and even strengthen that partnership. For the EU, it is extremely important to work with Israel as it has a top-notch innovation capacity, the paper says. At 5.44% of gross domestic product, Israel's expenditure on research and innovation is considerably higher than the 2.26% average for the EU's 27 countries. Hang on a second. Okay. Rather than containing any specific details about the Gaza genocide, the paper merely referred to the current conflict in the Middle East. You know, there's a thing where the state of Mississippi, I grew up in Mississippi, so I know this for a fact, where there was one weather guy, meteorologist, that would not say Mississippi. He would say the landmass between Louisiana and Alabama. That's what that shit sounds. The current conflict in the Middle East. You mean the genocide? Is that what you're trying to say? A lot less wordier when you just get to the truth. Palestine solidarity groups and numerous academics had called for Israel to be expelled from Horizon Europe, the EU scientific research program. Yet the paper underscored that the European Commission was opposed to those calls. Of course they were. Ending participation in the program solely on the basis of the nationality should be considered an improper termination and amounting discrimination, the paper, see below, says. The argument put forward here betrays the pro-Israel bias of the EU institutions. The Gaza genocide involves racism in its rawest form. Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's evil leader, has repeatedly framed it as a war of civilization against barbarism. At one point, he invoked the Bible to apparently threaten an entire population with annihilation. Although Palestinians are viewed as human animals who may be butchered en masse, the EU has been eager to paint Israel, the state carrying out the genocide, as a potential victim of discrimination. Oh. Yeah, always the victim, right? The EU's phrasing closely resembles language found in an appeal made by Israel's Association of University Heads a few months prior. In June last year, the association categorized calls for Israel's exclusion from EU research activities as discriminatory treatment. You don't like our genocide. You're discriminating against the genocide. The association sent 2 appeals that month to Ilyana Ivanova, then the EU commissioner overseeing scientific research. One of the letters stated that EU project officers have been helpful in resisting calls for the exclusion of Israeli participants from EU funding, but they are under immense pressure and need guidance. The immense pressure is almost certainly a reference to the massive public revulsion at the horrors Israel has inflicted on Gaza. Yes, immense pressure. In response to that pressure, the European Commission finally proposed on July 27th this year that Israel should be partially suspended from research cooperation. Oh, that is so partially. The proposal, which has been rejected by Germany, Israel's largest ally among the EU's governments, would have applied to small firms making technology that can have military applications. Under current rules, all EU-financed research projects are nominally limited to civilian use. The European Commission has nonetheless been assessing a widening of its research program so that weapons development can be funded. The paper prepared for the aforementioned meeting between Brussels officials and the Israel Innovation Authority notes that the widening was raised during an earlier discussion with diplomats representing Netanyahu's government. During that earlier discussion held in April last year, the Israelis expressed preferences for how EU research with a possible military dimension should be handled, and it was agreed that there would be further consultation on the surrounding issues. There's only one possible way to interpret this information. The European Union has been brainstorming about future weapons development with Israel at a time when that state is conducting a war of extermination. Thank you. Following Bibi's new announcement that he's expanding the war on Gaza, the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has banned the supply of weapons to Israel if those weapons are intended for use in Gaza. But if they're used in Lebanon, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Merz's ban does not lessen the culpability of the Berlin political establishment. The U.S. and Germany were the 2 biggest arms exporters to Israel ahead of the genocide, and both have maintained the weapons flow since October 2023. Nor should it be forgotten that Merz has recently praised Israel for doing the West's dirty work. While his observation was focused on Iran, the attacks on that country cannot be disentangled from the decades of subjugation which Israel has inflicted on Palestinians. All of Israel's violence can be considered as dirty work in which Europe has connived for decades. So, and then this briefing here, I don't think that's the thing. All right, so, yeah. Not really telling you something you don't already know, that the EU was complicit in protecting, what's her name? Vanderlei Industries. That broad. The, what is it? I don't know. It's not crumbling, but you're starting to see cracks. You're starting to see a few cracks in what's going on. It needs to be more. We need to get some sledgehammers to this thing and knock this thing out because, first off, Israel controls this country. It controls the United States. You can see it in our politicians, in their paychecks. You can see it. Or in their PAC checks, I should say. So the UK, UK, you are not okay. Leaked report casts doubt on UK's justification for banning Palestine action. A leaked report cast doubt on the UK government's justification for banning Palestine action, Scottish daily The National reported Thursday. The National published the Joint Terrorism Analysis Center's assessment on the proscription of Palestine action under the Terrorism Act, which was obtained by campaigner and blogger Craig Murray. You know Craig Murray. Murray claimed that the assessment proves Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has consistently lied about Palestine action in a panicked attempt to defend the proscription. The leaked report shows JTAC assessed that Palestine action committed or participated in acts of terrorism for conducting incidents resulting in property damage. However, it also noted that JTAC assesses that the group is not otherwise concerned with terrorism. The majority of direct action by Palestine action would not be classified as terrorism under the definition of Section 1 of the Terrorism Act 2000, according to JTAC's assessment. In June, the government announced a ban under the Terrorism Act 2000 after activists from Palestine Action spray-painted planes at a Royal Air Force base, an act being investigated under counter-terrorism laws. Ooh, spray paint is terrorism. You might actually read something. The ban was later passed in the House of Commons and the House of Lords in July. Palestine Action describes itself as a direct action network targeting companies involved in supplying Israel's military. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights also publicly criticized the UK's decision to ban Palestine action, and the UN Special Rapporteur on Counterterrorism and Human Rights has been granted permission to intervene in the judicial review. The High Court has granted permission to Huda Amori, co-founder of Palestine Action, to bring a full judicial review against the order of Home Secretary Yvette Cooper banning the group as a terrorist organization. Yeah. Nothing is as it seems, right? They are just trying to keep people from figuring out, and I'm not talking about people who already know. They're trying to keep the normies from finding out the real shit that's going on over there, And, and you see it in our country too, the crackdown on protests and stuff. Now, Trump wants to have like these military groups set up in case there's domestic disturbance. I just assume we're under martial law, and if we're not, then I'm pleasantly surprised at this point. The IDF likes to brag because they know they're getting away with all the shit that's going on. Well, IDF brags of in-depth review that confirms Israel is starving sick children to death. Using terminology that's all too familiar to the U.S. public and treated by the for-profit health system as synonymous with those who are entitled to less care, the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF, on Tuesday released an in-depth review of widespread reports that Israel has killed hundreds of people in Gaza so far through its deliberate starvation policy. The military claimed the analysis found that many Palestinians who have died of malnutrition so far had previous illnesses. Most malnutrition deaths were due to severe pre-existing conditions, said the IDF. Yeah, the pre-existing conditions of getting shot at and having food not given to them. The expert review concluded that there are no signs of a widespread malnutrition phenomenon among the population in Gaza. The fact that a number of people who have died had health conditions before Israel began bombarding Gaza in 2023, decimating its healthcare system among other civilian infrastructures, is hardly a surprise, said journalist Ryan Grimm of Dropsite News. Children dying first in a famine Israel caused by restricting food aid also had comorbidities and pre-existing conditions, said Grimm. Of course they did. That is who dies first, and any child can tell you. The IDF and its top military funder, the U.S. government, have persistently denied that Israel is intentionally starving Palestinian civilians with its near-total blockade on humanitarian aid. As the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, has warned that famine is now unfolding in Gaza, experts have called the starvation crisis that's killed at least 235 people entirely man-made, and Amnesty International has gathered extensive testimony from healthcare workers and civilians describing how Israel is using starvation as a weapon of war. The Trump administration has continued to claim that any malnutrition in Gaza is a result of Hamas stealing aid. Fucking moron. Last month, even IDF officials were forced to admit previous claims that Hamas was stealing humanitarian aid deliveries could not be verified. What? No proof? No proof? What? With that claim debunked, the in-depth review focused instead on dismissing the starvation victims themselves. The IDF presented the case of a four-year-old Abdullah Hanu Muhammad Abu Zarqa, who had a genetic disease that caused deficiencies, osteoporosis, and bone thinning. It also posted on the social media platform The Tweeters the medical records of a 2-year-old named Abed Allah Hani Muhammad Abu Zarqa, which showed the toddler had hair loss and rickets, a bone disease caused by vitamin D deficiency. The document showed he had a positive family history of similar cases and was shared in the apparent hope that disclosing the information would tamp down outrage over Israel's blockade on humanitarian aid. I can't understand how anyone thinks we're only starving the sick kids to death is any kind of justification, even if it were true, said New York Times columnist Megan Stack. Excuse me. In the in-depth review, which Israel has verified only a few cases of starvation, came weeks after the Times appeared to bow to pressure from the Israeli government and media after it reported on Mohammed Zakari al-Mutawak, an 18-month-old who was born with cerebral palsy and had also been suffering from starvation. Israel claimed the use of photos of the toddler in media coverage was misleading because outlets like the Times didn't disclose al-Mutawak's previous medical condition, and the Times issued an editorial note pointing out his diagnosis soon after. Cucks. The editor's move provoked outcry from progressive observers who called the addendum ghoulish and depraved. One noted that an institution that took pains to clarify that some portion of Nazi death camp victims had pre-existing conditions would rightly be accused of denying the impact of the Holocaust. Exactly. That's a good point. Yeah, they only died in those concentration camps because they were already sick. Duh. It took an in-depth IDF review, one critic asked Wednesday, to determine that children with pre-existing conditions will be the first victims of a man-made famine. Yeah, right. It's not us doing it. It's the pre-existing conditions, y'all. Wow. The stupidity in the world is frightening. Meanwhile, all those America First people in MAGA, they're not too fan. They ain't big fans of Israel First. Well, Israel's trying to change that as Israel chases MAGA support amid Gaza backlash. Oops. Why y'all wearing masks? What y'all scared of? The Israeli government is courting conservative social media influencers in the U.S. to shore up support among Make America Great Again Republicans, according to Axios. Support among MAGA Republicans for Israel has fallen to record lows amid Tel Aviv's ongoing campaign of starvation and genocide in Gaza, fueled by billions in U.S. weapons and military aid. Younger Republicans in particular question why Trump is spending such large sums to support Israeli military actions while neglecting the needs of U.S. citizens at home. Oh, younger Republicans, look at that. That's cool. That's good. We need them to speak up. The Israeli campaign involved sending 15 MAGA influencers on a propaganda tour to Israel this week. The trip was organized by Israel 365, an advocacy group that tries to strengthen Israel by building bridges between Jews, Christians, and all who share our faith-based values. No Muslims. According to a statement from the group. Axios reports that Israel's 365 was awarded a no-bid contract worth 70,000 smackers by the Israeli Foreign Ministry to fund the trip. The advocacy group is led by Rabbi Pasak Woliki, who has regularly appeared on the conservative television programs such as The Charlie Kirk Show to defend Israeli atrocities. Of course, he was on Charlie Kirk. Israel 65 is uniquely suited to help MAGA-affiliated entities reach religious and ideological audiences in both Israel and the U.S., stated an Israeli Foreign Ministry memo obtained by Axios. Several influencers have faced backlash for participating in the all-expenses-paid trip, which included visits to the Western Wall and occupied Jerusalem, settlements in the Gaza envelope, as well as the occupied West Bank, Golan Heights, and the Syrian border. Following the trip, Steve Bannon's War Room podcast ended its relationship with MAGA influencer Jane Zirkle. I don't know who the fuck that is. Axios notes that Gen Z MAGA supporters have grown increasingly comfortable questioning Israel's policies and prosecution of the war in Gaza, especially under the banner of the America First agenda. Yeah, it ain't America First when it's Israel first, right? Maybe they're just misspelling America and calling it Israel. Many young Republicans have also been influenced by political commentator and streamer Nick Fuentes, who regularly criticizes Israel's genocide in Gaza. And our buddy Blue Moon Red Wine had a video about him the other day. Yeah, he's a piece of shit, but, you know, broken clock. Here we go. Trump's lavish support for Israel and the outsized influence of the U.S. Jewish community over the U.S. government. Even legacy conservative journalist Tucker Carlson has hosted several programs recently with guests highlighting Israeli crimes in Gaza, including Lieutenant Colonel Aguilar, a former U.S. Special Forces operative who reported seeing Israeli troops carrying out horrifying war crimes against Palestinians in Gaza while working for the GHF. But be careful of Tucker Carlson, of course. He's CIA too. His daddy's CIA. He wanted to be CIA too. But he's CIA in his own special way. Speaking of special needs, Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to Israel, justifies Israeli military killing of aid seekers in Gaza. Of course he does. In an interview published by the Times of Israel on Wednesday, U.S. ambassador to Israel and pill pusher Mike Huckabee justified the Israeli military shooting of unarmed Palestinians attempting to get aid in the Gaza Strip. Now, normally I don't talk, you have smack talk stories like this, but this is the ambassador to Israel saying all this shit. Defending the U.S.-backed GHF, Huckabee downplayed the reports of people being killed by the IDF near GHF sites, but admitted that it does happen. Have there been instances where maybe people were shot by IDF soldiers? Best I can tell, that's happened, the ambassador said. Ding. This magic spittoon appears out of nowhere. Huckabee claimed that the IDF soldiers only fire at civilians when they're being rushed by a large crowd. You have a group of, let's say, 10 or 15 IDF soldiers. They're manning a perimeter. You have 2,000 or 3,000 people who suddenly are rushing towards a position. They're first given a verbal warning, please stop. Second thing they get, shots fired in the air. Third thing, shots fired at the ground. And if they're still rushing towards them, it's probably that some of the people are shot in the midst of that because the soldiers don't know why they're coming, and they coming to overrun the position. Fucking corn pone motherfucker. But eyewitness accounts from Palestinians contradict Huckabee's claims. Of course, they have proof. And videos have shown groups of unarmed Palestinians coming under fire while taking cover. Tony Aguilar, a retired U.S. Green Beret who worked at GHF sites, has said the IDF regularly fires live ammunition at unarmed people as a form of crowd control, including when their backs are turned and they are walking away from the GHF site. Israel's use of live ammunition on aid seekers has included tank and artillery shells. Huckabee appeared to mock the idea of using non-lethal means of crowd control during the interview. The interviewer said that he wished there were non-lethal crowd control methods being used in Gaza, and Huckabee replied, "Don't we all? Yuck, yuck, yuck." Ding. The interviewer then noted that there are non-lethal means to control a crowd, to which Huckabee replied, "What are you going to do, get Girl Scouts to take them in? They're taking our gerbs." Since the GHF began operating at the end of May, the health ministry in Gaza has recorded the killing of 1,881 aid seekers and the wounding of almost 14,000. The majority of the casualties occurred near GHF sites, while many others were killed or hurt while attempting to reach UN aid trucks. According to UN numbers from August 1st, 1,373 Palestinians have been killed while seeking food, 859 in the vicinity of the GHF sites, and 514 along the routes of food convoys. Fuck you, Mike Huckabee. You piece of shit. You Zionist piece of shit. Somebody's got some balls in New Zealand, but they're lady balls. As New Zealand MP ejected from Parliament twice over passionate Gaza speech. There's this nice lady there. A New Zealand member of Parliament was ejected from the legislative chamber twice after delivering an impassioned speech about Gaza, while the government continues to avoid taking a position on recognizing Palestinian statehood. Chloe Swarbrick, the co-leader of the left-wing Green Party, was initially ordered to leave the chamber on Tuesday. She challenged the members of the parliament with a spine, bam, to support her motion calling for New Zealand to sanction Israel over the Gaza genocide. "If we can find 6 of 68 government MPs with a spine, we can stand on the right side of history," she said. Though given an unusually long 3-day suspension by New Zealand parliamentary norms, Swarbrick came back the next day only to be expelled again for standing by her comments. The Parliament Speaker, Jerry Brownlee, invoked an uncommon disciplinary measure in New Zealand's Parliament by calling a vote to formally censure Swarbrick for misconduct, a procedure resulting in suspension with salary reduction. The motion carried with unanimous support from governing coalition members. The reprimand took place against a backdrop of parliamentary turmoil, with the government facing intense scrutiny over its unwillingness to recognize an independent Palestinian state. The move followed Australia's recent commitment to recognize Palestinian statehood, with France, Britain, and Canada expected to follow suit during next month's UN General Assembly session. "We are one of the very few countries in the world who so far refuse to acknowledge the absolute bare minimum," Swarbrick says. Hey, come to America. They deny everything. The state of Palestine is recognized as a sovereign nation by 147 of the 193 member states of the UN, representing 75% of the international community. Meanwhile, New Zealand is still weighing its position on formally recognizing Palestinian statehood. On Wednesday, New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has lost the plot. Luxon told reporters that the lack of humanitarian assistance, the forceful displacement of people, and the annexation of Gaza were utterly appalling, and that Netanyahu had gone way too far. Israel's genocidal war, and that's all the numbers there. So, good for you, lady. This is the lady right here. Her name is MP Chloe Swarbrick. Good on you. We love to see that. Love to see it. Meanwhile, fuckery going on in California under the guise of getting even with Trump, as California governor with his haircut boosts redistricting effort in growing feud with Trump. So let's counter bullshit with bullshit is basically what this is. Ozempic. Yeah, 102 degrees in Gaza. And they don't have clean water there either. California Governor Gavin Newsom has said that the country's most populous state will promote a partisan redistricting scheme, gerrymandering, aimed at countering controversial Republican-led redistricting efforts in Texas ahead of the United States 2026 midterm elections. Let's not fix things for people in your own state. Let's just do some bullshit to try to get back at Orange Man bad. Speaking at a news conference yesterday, Newsom took a combative stance against Trumpy and said that Democrats must respond to what he said were conservative efforts to politicize the electoral process. See, that's the thing. Respond, react. That's all. They're not proactive about stopping shit. And when they do, they do the dumbest shit. Today is Liberation Day in the state of California, bro. Newsom said, appropriating a term used by Trump to refer to the imposition of tariffs on foreign countries. Newsom and Trump have frequently sparred as the U.S. president seeks to exert pressure on Democrat-led states that have pushed back against his political agenda on issues such as immigration enforcement. This fucking thing. In the United States, they got this big-ass thing. During his remarks, Newsom said that masked immigration enforcement agents had gathered around the venue, which he depicted as a form of intimidation. Trump prompted outrage in California earlier in the year when he deployed the military and National Guard to L.A. during a round of aggressive immigration raids and suggested at the time that Newsom should be arrested. Donald Trump, you have poked the bear, and we will punch back, bro, said Newsom, who is seen as a possible Democratic contender for the presidency in 2028, and he probably will be. It's gonna be Newsom and Harris, probably. God, you don't need syrup of ipecac to make you throw up. Just think about that. Newsom said that the redistricting scheme, which would favor the Democrats and could net them 5 additional seats in the 2026 midterm elections, will go before voters in a special election on November 4th. The California governor said the scheme was a direct response to a similar redistricting effort in the Republican-led state of Texas, which would help secure 5 additional likely seats for the Republican Party. The old tit for tat. He stressed that unlike in Texas, it would be up to California voters to approve or shoot down the new maps, and that they would only go forward if Texas and other states move forward with their own partisan redistricting efforts. He added that the planned maps, which are expected to be released sometime today, would be in effect until 2030. So 5 years. Earlier this month, Democrat lawmakers in Texas fled the state to block a House vote on redistricting efforts that would create an additional 5 Republican-leaning districts. On Thursday, the lawmakers moved closer to ending their nearly 2-week walkout that has blocked the GOP's redrawing of U.S. House maps and put them under escalating threats by Republicans back home, including Trumpy, who threatened to send the FBI to come get them. The Democrats announced they will return so long as Texas Republicans end a special session and California releases its own redrawn map proposal, both of which were expected to happen sometime today. Democrats did not say what day they might return. Newsom's move underscores calls within the Democratic Party to take a stronger stance against Trump and the Republicans, including moves that violate previously held norms and rules the Democrats say the U.S. right has long since abandoned. We cannot unilaterally disarm, he said, calling on other Democratic-led states. We cannot unilaterally disarm, bro. He said, calling on other Democrat-led states to join California. Other blue states need to stand up. We need to be firm, bro, he said. So, yeah, that's their answers. Like the Coochie guy, right? The Coochie says we got to blame people. And then this fucking surfer, he's like, oh, yeah, they're going to gerrymander. We're going to gerrymander. Hey, that's not how that works. That's not how any of this shit works. And, I mentioned Mississippi earlier, that I grew up down there. And this story, the last one here, does not surprise me at all. As the U.S. Supreme Court declines to pause new Mississippi social media law. U.S. Supreme Court has declined to put on hold a Mississippi law requiring that users of social media platforms verify their age and that minors have parental consent. That's a red state. That's a very red state, and they're all about that censorship. The High Court made the decision yesterday not to accept the challenge by NetChoice, a trade group that included tech giants such as Meta, Facebook, and Instagram's parent company, Alphabet, which owns YouTube and Snapchat. The justices denied a request to block the law, while the Washington-based tech industry trade association's legal challenge to the law, which it argues violates the U.S. Constitution's protections against government abridgment of free speech, plays out in lower courts. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, in a statement about the court's order, said the Mississippi law was likely unconstitutional, but that NetChoice had not met the high bar to block the measure at this early stage of the case. In a statement, Paul Task, co-director of the NetChoice Litigation Center, said Kavanaugh's view makes clear that NetChoice will ultimately succeed in its challenge. Task called the Supreme Court's order an unfortunate procedural delay. NetChoice had turned to the Supreme Court after the New Orleans-based Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals let the law take effect, even though a judge found it likely runs afoul of the First Amendment. NetChoice sued in federal court last year in a bid to invalidate the law, which was passed unanimously in the state legislature amid concern by lawmakers about the potential negative effects of social media on the mental health of children, or the fact that they're learning about genocide from one of their buddies. Its emergency request to the justices marked the first time the Supreme Court was asked to consider a social media age verification law. The law requires that a social media platform obtain express consent from Major League Baseball, from a parent or guardian of a minor before a child can open an account. It also states that regulated social media platforms must make commercially reasonable efforts to verify the age of users. Under the law, the state can pursue civil penalties of up to $10,000 per violation, as well as criminal penalties under Mississippi's deceptive trade practices law. U.S. District Judge Halil Suleiman Ozerden in Gulfport, Mississippi, last year blocked Mississippi from enforcing restrictions on some NetChoice members. Ozerden issued a second order in June, pausing the rules against those members, including Meta and its Instagram and Facebook platforms, Snapchat and YouTube. Well, they're not it, but I said that wrong, but you know what I mean. The Fifth Circuit on July 17 issued a one-sentence ruling that paused the judge's order without explaining its reasoning. Courts in 7 states have preliminarily or permanently blocked similar measures, including, according to NetChoice. Some technology companies are separately battling lawsuits brought by U.S. states, school districts, and individual users alleging that social platforms have exacerbated mental health problems. Maybe some of the people on social media has done that, but social media itself, well, you know. The companies have denied wrongdoing. NetChoice said the social media platforms of its members already have adopted extensive policies to moderate content for minors and provide parental controls. In its request to the Supreme Court, the state told the justices that age verification and parental consent requirements are common ways for states to protect minors. Yeah, it's all about the kids, right? Until they're born. In May, Texas passed a law requiring Apple and Alphabet's Google to verify the age of users in their app stores. Yay! MISSISSIPPI. What has 4 eyes and can't see? It's Mississippi. That's your propaganda watch, brought to you by bullshit. That's right, bullshit. It's everywhere. Folks, that's pretty much it for the show. We got one more little funsy for you. It's a heartfelt story that I'm sure some of you may enjoy. But before then, we want to remind you that our buddy Kevin is his house burned down in the LA fires. If you can donate to his GoFundMe, the link is down below. If not, if you could share it out, we appreciate it. Also, our buddy Cowboy Kitty, his friend has been taken by ICE. His GoFundMe is down below as well. Again, if you can donate, that's great. If not, if you could share it out, we appreciate it. And then tomorrow night, we got this knucklehead. Who's this old guy? I need my pills. It's a secret show. Tomorrow night, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific time. More funsies, more nutty stuff, more good times at a low, low price. So that's going to do it for us today here at the old show. Again, Secret Show tomorrow night. Check out our peeps over here. Make sure you're checking out their channels, various platforms. They do good work, and they're not grifters, which is the best part. So finally, after all this bad news, you might want some good news, right? Well, sheep escapes slaughter, runs loose through Chicago streets. What? This is CBS News Chicago.
Your eyes do not deceive you. That is a sheep running around the West Loop.
He caused quite a commotion for hours with people following the animal with their phones to see what was going on. Our Marissa Sulik is live with more on how this happened. Marissa?
Joe and Erica, witnesses tell me that the sheep somehow escaped this butcher shop and slaughterhouse here behind me on Halsted, and he was on a mission to save his own life.
Apparently there's just a sheep roaming around Chicago.
It was sheer madness Monday afternoon around lunchtime. A wild sheep chase of sorts all around the West Loop and Fulton Market District.
I pulled up to the stop sign and I literally thought I was like tripping or seeing something. I could not believe I was looking at a sheep.
Bobby Grilly saw the sheep on the lam himself before he trotted down Green Street. People following the woolly animals say he got the flock out of this butcher shop, the Halsted packing house.
Was it funny because as we got to Halsted Street, the butcher came running across the street.
Butchers seen in TikTok videos going after the sheep, which they corralled into this parking lot.
The butcher was like hiding behind a car to like sneak up behind it.
At one point, the sheep was cornered by Chicago Animal Care and Control, and the fuzzy fugitive was put in the back of their van. But the CACC says they don't have the space to house livestock of this type.
This is the Chicago Chicken Rescue.
So he is now in the woodlawn backyard of this nonprofit. Co-founder Christina Zolano says the rescue works with CACC to take in any domestic animals that come into the shelter. And after 15 years, she says this is her first sheep.
He was at a slaughterhouse in Chicago and managed to escape and find his way to the main administrative office, and then smashed through a glass window and ended up roaming the streets of Chicago.
That's why Zolano says he still has a red slaughterhouse marking on his back.
So we're looking for a home for the sheep, a more permanent home on a farm that has other sheep.
For the next few days to a week, Zolano says this will be his space. Dozens of chickens and birds are on one half. He's claiming the other, on his way to live the sheer good life.
What an impressive animal that he escaped in that way to his freedom and wanted to provide him a chance to live, which is what he wanted.
Zolano says she doesn't believe the sheep has ever been outside. She doesn't know his history, but she says ever since he's gotten to her backyard, he's been very scared and standoffish. Live in the West Loop, Marissa Sulik, CBS News, Chicago.
Well, glad he has another chance at life.
Yes, and he's safe in that backyard.
Oh, gosh. See, now Marissa's play on words were perfect, okay?
Sorry.
Joe. Thank you, Marissa.
Joe.
These white people and their jokes, I swear to God. Yeah, so basically the sheep pulled the wool over the eyes of the butchers there and got out of there. Yes, but we don't have the rim shot on this show, but we should maybe for these bad jokes. At the end, well, that's it. Yeah, sheer luck. Yes, I know. Hey, Sal, what's up? I didn't see you sneak in there. Good to see you. I know, right? It's a great story, right? Went from the butcher shop to probably some weirdo's place. God knows what they're going to do to him in Chicago. So, yeah, I know. It was good stuff. Stop chasing sheep. That's right. It was funny because they were trying to count how many there were, and then everybody fell asleep. So it was one of those things. I'm getting out of here. We'll see you tomorrow night for the Secret Show. This show will be back Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, and the Book of Faces. We appreciate all of you guys. If you want to donate to the show, you can do so by checking out the links down below. We also have Patreon, too. If you want to join our Patreon, you get your name and lights at the beginning of the show. And, of course, shout-outs and hugs when available. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate you. Love each and every one of you. I'll see you tomorrow night for the Secret Show. See you next week for this one. Peace out.
Sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
City Alpha 5!
Uh-oh.
This is City Alpha 5!